morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Big money from Japan. Japanese firms pour over 23 billion pesos into new and expanding projects across the Philippines. Which industries are getting a boost? It was brand new, but it collapsed. Who's to blame? The DPWH points to overloaded trucks for the failure of the newly built Isabela Bridge. But could there be deeper issues at play? And U.S. President Donald Trump delays auto tariffs on Mexico and Canada. What does this mean for the global supply chain? First, let's take a look at how financial markets performed overnight. Wall Street ended higher Wednesday, shaking off volatility as investors welcomed signs of easing trade tensions. Stocks turned positive after reports surfaced that U.S. President Donald Trump may delay auto tariffs on Canada and Mexico by 1 month, as the move could ease pressure on automakers and supply chains, boosting market sentiment. Investors are now watching for more policy clarity from the White House for its impact on global trade.
We're getting a nice bounce back today, but I don't know that it tells us anything new. What we've really seen in the market is investor uncertainty. We're just waiting for clarification on policies. We've been through this before and we sort of forget it. But President Trump has a different way of communicating and executing policy, and it does lead to extended uncertainty for the market.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 1.14%. The S&P 500 gained 1.12%, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 1.5%. Elsewhere in the world, in Europe, markets are mixed, with the UK's FTSE flat with a negative bias. Germany's DAX is up sharply, higher by 3.4%, while France's CAC 40 is higher by 1.6%. Here at home, the Philippines secures at least 23.5 billion pesos in investments from Japanese firms, focusing on renewable energy, railways, and entertainment, among other sectors. According to the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, Special Assistant to the President on Investment and Economic Affairs, Frederick Go, and DTI Secretary Cristina Roque met with executives from NIDEC Corporation on March 3rd to discuss expanding the company's manufacturing operations here in the Philippines. NIDEC, a Japanese multinational known for producing precision motors used in hard drives, electric vehicles, and industrial machinery, is looking to grow its presence in the country. Other Japanese companies are also eyeing expansion, including export opportunities for Philippine-made interior and lifestyle products. DTI notes the growing demand for handmade Christmas decor and the continued popularity of abaca, capis, and shell-finished interior accessories in the global market. Japan remains one of the Philippines' largest trading partners, and these new investments signal stronger economic ties between the two nations. The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, reaffirms its commitment to keeping inflation manageable, following its drop to 2.1% in February, the lowest level in 5 months. This slowdown provides relief to consumers and businesses, potentially giving the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas more room to start cutting interest rates sooner. But with food prices, global uncertainties, and oil fluctuations still in play, can inflation remain stable in the months ahead? Sujin Kim has the details.
Inflation in the country further cooled in February, settling at 2.1%. The downtrend was primarily attributed to slower price increases in food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing and utilities, as well as transport, which collectively account for the biggest share in household expenses. Food staples such as vegetables, tubers, and bananas saw a sharp decline in inflation, falling to 7.1% from 21.1% in January. Rice prices declined at a faster rate, ranging between 48 to 64 pesos.
It may further slow down or maintain its negative inflation if magiging, kasi di ba may plan ang DA then to further reduce yung maximum suggested retail price of imported rice. If that will happen, that would affect yung it may affect our inflation for rice next month. And also, yung sinasabi ng DA na expand yung coverage or yung access ng Kadiwa rice next month sa malls, sa supermarkets.
Del Prado also attributed the deflation to government interventions aimed at boosting supply and access.
I think may impact na yung ating food security emergency na dineclare ng DA because of this reduction in the prices of rice coming from NFA buffer stocks.
Corn prices also slowed to 0.7% from 3.6%. However, some food products recorded higher inflation rates, indicating persistent price pressures. Pork prices surged by 12.1%.
Reason for the high price now, alam naman natin ngayon yung ASF. I think the supply because of ASF is causing the high price for meat, particularly pork.
But Del Prado expects that the implementation of the maximum SRP on pork can help moderate prices.
We expect pag na-implement ito and given other things constant, it can slow down yung inflation ng pork pag na-impose ito.
Meanwhile, the transport sector, which had previously contributed to inflation in previous months, saw prices fall. With lower fuel prices and reduced fares in some public transport services except transport by sea that had a significant uptick since December.
So ship fare for February 2025 tumaas ng 2,713.70. Kumpara noong January 2025, it's lower, 2,413.70.
With the onset of La Nina, NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan says the government will ramp up water management, financial assistance, and credit support to mitigate its impact. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Ivan Uy steps down as the Secretary of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, raising questions about leadership stability in one of the country's most critical sectors. Sources tell Bilyonaryo that his resignation comes amid pressure from Malacanang, following criticism over frequent overseas trips that allegedly impacted the agency's performance. For now, Undersecretary Jeffrey E&D takes over as the officer in charge. With the DICT at the forefront of the Philippines' digital transformation, businesses and investors are watching closely. Whoever takes the role next will need to address crucial issues including internet connectivity, cybersecurity, and the country's push for a stronger digital economy. Speculation is growing that Senator Grace Poe, whose term ends in June, could be next in line for that post. The Department of Agriculture defends the approved 10 billion pesos additional funding for the National Food Authority, or NFA, saying it's crucial for warehouse rehabilitation and palay procurement. Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa breaks down the allocation. 5 billion pesos for new dryers and millers, 1.5 billion pesos for existing warehouse rehabilitation, 3.5 billion pesos for building new warehouses. De Mesa emphasizes that boosting the NFA's storage and processing capacities is critical as the government aims to increase the national rice buffer stock from 9 to 15 days. Now, what does this mean for consumers? Well, more storage and processing capacity could help stabilize rice prices and reduce our reliance on imports, but it remains to be seen how effectively these funds will be spent. Pork prices in the Philippines are expected to decline by mid-March, providing relief to consumers and businesses, even without a mandated suggested retail price, or SRP. Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa says pork prices peaked at 480 pesos per kilo in February, but are now on track to drop by 10 pesos to 20 pesos per kilo following discussions with hog industry stakeholders. As of March 4th, the prevailing pork prices in Metro Manila are 450 per kilo for liempo, 380 per kilo for kasim, and for businesses in food and retail, restaurants, and meat processing, this could mean lower input costs. But the question remains, will the price drop be sustainable, or will supply issues drive another spike? We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to Bottom Line. Welcome back. The gains in Wall Street overnight are supporting market sentiment here in Asia. Taking a look at how bourses in the region are doing, the Nikkei 225 is up by 1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index up by 2.2%. The Shanghai Composite up by 0.5%. And Singapore's Straits Times Index up by 0.7%. Here at home, let's take a look at the main gauge. Now, Philippine shares rallied for a third straight session on Wednesday as February inflation came in below expectations, boosting hopes for a potential interest rate cut by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The PSE index climbed 1% to close at 61.22 after data from the Philippine Statistics Authority showed inflation slowed to 2.1% in February, the lowest in 5 months and below the BSP's forecast range of 2.2 to 3%. Analysts say that this could support household spending and economic growth. Now, with the Monetary Board set to meet on April 3, investors are now watching whether the BSP will resume its rate cut cycle after a surprise pause in February. The SP Governor Eli Rambalona has signaled as much as a 50 basis point cut this year, following the 75 basis points already delivered since August. Now, taking a look at the main gauge, the PSE index is up by 1% to 61.91, just under the 6,200 level. All shares index up as well, higher by 0.7% to 36.89. As for the sub-indices, I'm seeing a sea of green here. The financials, industrial, holding firms, services, mining and oil, and property counters are all markedly higher in early trade, with the holding, services, mining and oil, and property counters all up by over 1%. Now, taking a look at the foreign exchange market, the peso opened strong at 57.25 against the greenback from its previous close of 57.35. Joblessness in the Philippines climbs, with nearly 2.2 million Filipinos unemployed in January. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, shows the unemployment rate rose to 4.3%, up from 3.1% in December and 3.8% in January of 2024. However, it remains slightly lower than the 4.5% recorded a year ago. The PSA attributes the rise in unemployment to a sharp decline in manufacturing jobs, raising concerns about the sector's recovery and future stability. In other news, Ginebra San Miguel Incorporated welcomes a new director, John Paul Ang, the eldest son of Bilyonaryo Ramon Ang. He fills the seat vacated by Francisco Alejo III, who resigned effective January 31st. Ang currently serves as president and chief operating officer of San Miguel Corporation, one of the country's largest conglomerates. He also holds key roles in Petron, San Miguel Food and Beverage, and Top Frontier Investment Holdings, strengthening his influence across the group's business empire. Now, the Philippine Coast Guard warns that disinformation is now one of the biggest threats to protecting the West Philippine Sea as China continues to push new territorial claims, including over Palawan. PCG West Philippine Sea spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela says false information is being spread to weaken public support for the country's maritime claims and downplay China's aggressive actions in the region. To counter this, the Philippine government is intensifying its public awareness campaign and is pushing for a bill in Congress that would penalize those behind disinformation on national security matters. Tariela emphasizes that accurate information is crucial, not just for national security, but also to reassure foreign investors and to protect economic interests in the region, including trade and energy exploration.
Anything that undermines our position in the West Philippine Sea, particularly about our national interests and national security, should be limited and make them accountable.
DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan admits that the 1.2 billion peso Santa Maria Cabangan Bridge in Isabela, which collapsed just weeks after opening, never underwent a final load test. The bridge, meant to connect Cabangan and Santa Maria, partially collapsed on February 27th, raising serious concerns over construction quality and possible corruption. Malacanang says that the previous administration may be held liable as DPWH investigations point to underdesign and structural weaknesses that could have been avoided. Bonoan confirms that the bridge, which took 12 years to complete, was not subjected to a final load test before opening, despite signage limiting it to light vehicles. He also says overloaded trucks may have added stress to the structure, but the core issue appears to be a lack of critical engineering safeguards.
The initial conclusion that we are looking at now is actually because of the passage of the heavily loaded trucks, which na-overstress yung na-overstress yung some of the segments of the bridge by more than 200%. Kasi yung mga trucks that passed by in convoy, actually, we're weighing, actually, ang estimated namin is actually about more than 100 tons, no? When in fact, dapat lang ang permissible weight na designed for that is actually about 44 tons.
Palace Press Officer Claire Castro emphasizes that accountability will be established and that all parties involved, past and present, may face consequences. The incident has sparked national concern over infrastructure safety, with experts calling for stronger engineering standards and transparency in major public works projects. Now, the Philippine Air Force grounds its remaining FA-50 jets after one of its units recently crashed in Bukidnon, raising concerns about military readiness and defense procurement strategies. The aircraft went down in Mount Kalatungan, Bukidnon, killing its 2 pilots. While the Air Force confirms that maritime exercises will continue, the incident puts a spotlight on the country's defense asset reliability and the urgent need to modernize military capabilities amid heightened regional tensions. The Philippines has been increasing its defense budget, with billions allocated for new air and naval equipment. But this crash could spark debates on whether the country should focus on acquiring newer aircrafts or on maintaining existing fleets more effectively. The Armed Forces of the Philippines has yet to release the official names of the pilots that perished in that incident. With defense spending under scrutiny, this incident may trigger a review of military procurement policies and foreign partnerships in the Philippines' security strategy. We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back.
Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Rain Musni. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey.
We empower.
This country deserves a real choice in the next election.
We motivate.
Do not invest money that you're not able to afford to lose.
Changes that are vital.
We're monitoring the sale of these products online.
Follow the Money with Rain Musni.
Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Always on top.
Welcome back. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky signals a possible breakthrough in U.S.-Ukrainian relations, reporting positive movement toward a fresh meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Zelensky says his chief of staff is in talks with the U.S. National Security Advisor as Kiev seeks to repair relations with its biggest military backer amid Russia's ongoing invasion. Tensions escalated last week after a heated White House meeting where Zelensky and Trump clashed over strategies to end the war. The Ukrainian leader's remarks come just hours after CIA Director John Ratcliffe confirmed a temporary halt in U.S. intelligence sharing with Ukraine, raising questions about the future of military cooperation. With U.S. aid and strategic partnerships at stake, all eyes are on whether Washington and Kiev can rebuild trust. Now, the White House may reverse its decision to pause aid to Ukraine as talks continue over a minerals deal between Washington and Kiev. During his address to Congress, President Donald Trump said that he appreciates Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's willingness to finalize a U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal and join peace negotiations. But military aid remains on hold, a move Trump made after his heated meeting with Zelensky last week, over how to end the war. With Ukraine relying on both military support and economic partnerships, all eyes are on whether these negotiations can repair ties between the two nations.
I believe what the National Security Council told me in regards to that was that they paused or they are reconsidering the funding for Ukraine, as you saw, the pause on the funding. As for intelligence matters, I would refer you to either the National Security Council or the CIA as well.
On another front, the U.S. is now in direct talks with Hamas over hostages and a possible ceasefire in Gaza. The White House confirms that U.S. Special Envoy for Hostages, Adam Boehler, has been negotiating with a militant group to secure the release of captives. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stresses that Israel was consulted on the discussions, adding that the U.S. is making good faith effort to protect American lives.
Well, when it comes to the negotiations that you're referring to, first of all, the special envoy who's engaged in those negotiations does have the authority to talk to anyone. Israel was consulted on this matter. And look, dialogue and talking to people around the world to do what's in the best interest of the American people is something that the president has proven is what he believes is good faith effort to do what's right for the American people.
U.S. President Donald Trump delays some auto tariffs for 1 month following talks with top executives from General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. This move eases immediate pressure on global auto manufacturers and North America's integrated supply chain. But uncertainty remains as automakers push for long-term policy clarity. The delay gives companies more time to adjust investment plans and supply networks, especially those relying on Mexico and Canada for production.
I can confirm, and I'm glad that you asked because the president sent me out here with a statement directly from him on this. I saw it was reported earlier today by Bloomberg News, and he wanted me to share this with all of you. We spoke with the big three auto dealers. We are going to give a 1-month exemption on any autos coming through USMCA. Reciprocal tariffs will still go into effect on April 2nd. But at the request of the companies associated with USMCA, the president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage. So the three companies that he spoke to are Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors. They requested the call, they made the ask, and the president is happy to do it. It's a 1-month exemption.
With auto parts crossing borders multiple times, the possibility of layered tariffs could still disrupt pricing, production costs, and consumer markets. Businesses worldwide, from automotive suppliers to financial markets, are watching closely as trade policy shifts could redefine North America's competitiveness in the global auto industry. Prayers for Pope Francis's recovery continue as the faithful gathered on Ash Wednesday to offer intentions for his healing. In Rome's Santa Sabina Church, worshippers prayed during Mass, while in Buenos Aires, Argentines held vigils hoping for the Pope's healing.
The homily of Pope Francis. We feel deeply united to him in this moment, and we thank him for the offering of his prayer and his sufferings for the good of the whole Church and the whole world. The holy ashes tonight will be scattered on our heads. These revive in us the memory of what we are, but also the hope of what we will be.
Pope Francis was hospitalized on February 14th with double pneumonia, and he continues to receive medical care. Supporters around the world, including here in the Philippines, remain hopeful for his full recovery. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel, always on top.